It took many years for the early railways to consider the benefits of using images to adorn their carriages and stations. Indeed, any idea of decorating the railways with posters and prints was ridiculed at first, as can be deduced by the following quote from the Railway Chronicle at the time. "The suggestion that railway stations can be enlivened with pictures is as ridiculous as painting a Madonna on a butcher's tray. How could jostling, panting crowds spare the time to look at art?" In the light of future developments, hardly prophetic. The first carriage panels to appear in 1884 sprang no doubt more from aesthetic considerations than purely commercial reasons. The compartments of the early railway carriages appeared rather naked without some form of adornment above the seats. Thomas William Worsdale, a pioneering manager of the Great Eastern Railway, arranged for scenic photographs of their territory to be displayed in their rolling stock. This simple addition of landscape pictures set the trend for railway carriage decor for the next 100 years. Other companies followed suit. In 1895, the Great Western Railway began to include photographic panels in their carriages. And surprisingly, these were not simple black and white photographs, but beautiful colour-tinted ones. These Victorian views were attractively mounted, and every effort was made to create a stylish finish. The company responsible for most of the artificially coloured photographic work for the railways in those days was the Photochrom Company, with their factory in Tunbridge Wells. Most of the major railway companies followed the example of the Great Western Railway and had views in their coaches. The London and South Western, South Eastern and Chatham, Midland, Great Central, Glasgow and South Western, Great Eastern and Great Northern Railways also began to place orders for their carriage stock. The poet, Pam Ayres, questions whether pictures were really displayed by the companies for aesthetic purposes and suggests they may have had a rather more subtle reason for their existence, a certain lack in the company's train services, as she pens these lines in her inimitable humorous style.
"And up above the headrest of the seat marked number 5 is a photograph of Cheddar Gorge in case we don't arrive."
Photochrom also supplied the colour-tinted photographs which graced the panels in Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee Royal Train. Built in 1897 by the Great Western at Swindon, the panels were superb and unique examples. Constructed in sycamore and walnut hardwoods with gilded surrounds and hand-painted titles. After all this effort, let's hope that Queen Victoria was suitably amused. By the early 1900s, the carriages of most major companies were enlivened by colour-tinted and later on black and white and sepia photographs, the latter being less expensive to produce. These came framed in all variety of shapes and sizes, some of them huge. The interior decor in this era was relatively luxurious. Even third-class stock gave off an aura of craftsmanship with their wooden bodies, detailed hardwood panelling and sweeping curves. The carriage prints and photograph panels blended in well with this decor and enhanced the elegance too. At the turn of the century, companies saw the need to actively promote their local resorts. These were often compared to those on the continent, particularly the Mediterranean coast. The object of this was to encourage the public to see Britain first before travelling overseas, or, as Charles Kingsley put it, sounding very pro-Brexit, "While we find God's signet fresh on English ground, why go gallivanting with the nations round?" Whilst Britain does have a myriad of picturesque landscapes, This approach produced some rather outrageous comparisons. The Great North of Scotland Railway saw the Moray Firth coast as the Scottish Riviera. The Great Northern Railway likened Ullswater to the English Lucerne, and wait for it, the Furness Railway portrayed Grange-over-Sands as the Naples of the North. Even the Metropolitan Railway were advertising Neasden as the Nice of the North Circular. No, they weren't actually, I got carried away for a minute. Whilst in this frivolous mood, I can't resist showing this subtle adjustment to a later railway poster by Frank Mason. Harwich for the continent, Frinton for the incontinent. By 1937, it was estimated that the number of people taking holidays away from home had risen to 15 million, a vast potential source of revenue for the railways and the prime advertising target for the carriage panels and the posters.